very much. Thank you.
And I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. My name is Marcus Corowa, and I am a musician, singer, and songwriter of Aboriginal and South Sea Islander descent. Clouded History is a full-length documentary film that explores the history and consequences of tobacco within our communities. In the making of this film, I go on a journey back home to speak to my family and friends about smoking, to try and get a sense of why it is so prevalent within our communities. In the film, I talk about my grandfathers. Both my grandfathers were smokers, and both passed away from smoking-related illnesses. Prior to this documentary, I had never given it any real thought to how they began smoking or why they both smoked. It was just something they both did, and it was something that most people did back then as well. But in the end, all of those years of smoking tobacco shortened both of my granddad's lives. For some of us, smoking is a big part of our daily lives. Whether we are a smoker or non-smoker, it's a big part of our society. We know that smoking rates are much higher in Indigenous people than in non-Indigenous people. And for many of us, we have seen firsthand the devastating effects that smoking tobacco can have in our communities and families. Throughout this journey, I learn and share about how tobacco was introduced to us from multiple sources. It then became a form of currency that was used to keep Aboriginal, Torres Strait, and South Sea Islander people dependent on tobacco. And in turn, it was a way to control our people. Executive producer of Clouded History, Sean Appo, quotes, "The fact is that tobacco has decimated both our people and our culture, and it is still holding us back in many ways. Financially, through health, through the early death of many of our elders. And that is certainly true in my personal story." Clouded History is a powerful tool that can be used in our communities to educate and initiate conversations about the harmful effects of smoking tobacco. I hope the information and messages about the real truth of our culture and history has a lasting positive impact on our people as we continue to strive towards improving our health standards. Together we are all stronger, and together we can make positive changes to move towards a healthier future for our generation and the generations to come.
It was over 200 years ago that Captain Arthur Phillips sighted this place from his sailing ship and landed here at Sydney Cove. On that first fleet of boats, he brought with him a substance so toxic that today is the biggest killer of blackfellas in this country. Tobacco affected my family, and I bet it's affected yours. It was never part of our culture. So how did this happen? How did tobacco infiltrate our homes, families, and communities? Today, smoking has become part of every community in Australia. And here in Hervey Bay, it's no different. This is where my father lives and where my grandfather lived. He was a heavy smoker and passed away from lung cancer. It's actually really sad walking around here, because there's a lot of our mob that are buried here and have died at a really young age because of smoking and smoking tobacco. This is my grandfather. He passed away at the age of 68 from lung cancer.
Tobacco first reached the shores of northern Australia at the beginning of the 18th century, when the Macassans fishermen sailed from Indonesia in search of food and pearl. The Macassans acknowledged Indigenous ownership of the land and offered pipes, tobacco, and other valued goods as a tribute to the local people, and in return received access to coastal waters and camping grounds, and a mutual respect between the two cultures developed.
Macassan goods, including tobacco and pipes, were prized as trade items by the local population and were carried far inland. But with the arrival of the First Fleet in 1788, British patterns of tobacco use were introduced to Indigenous people.
There's a really interesting saying that the Canadians First Nations use, and also in America as well, that the colonial footprint is universal.
Professor Ray Lovett from the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies has spent years examining the historical and cultural effects of tobacco and how it can be used to influence Indigenous peoples.
There is a long experience from the colonial experience that the way to gain power and control over, Indigenous populations is to use these tools.
Tobacco was often given to Indigenous people by Europeans as a token of goodwill, but the British tobacco was highly addictive and soon became popular and widely sought after by Indigenous communities. Tobacco, flour, and sugar was offered by Europeans in exchange for labour and services, and hoped that such bribes would lead the local people to forget their traditional lifestyle. Tobacco became a standard form of currency. During the 1800s, Indigenous people worked in often brutal circumstances for the cattle and pastoral industries, on sugar plantations, on roads, railways, either being paid in full or in part with tobacco.
So if you create a system where people are dependent on a particular commodity, then you then have control over that group of people or that society, because people will require that commodity to continue everyday life.
Payment in tobacco rations rather than money meant tobacco became part of the very fabric of community and family life, and Indigenous people were not able to fully understand their worth as labourers and nation builders. This kept Indigenous people working hard and working cheap.
That story is unique in a lot of ways to Aboriginal people in Australia, in terms of the early days right up to the 60s.
The history of payment in tobacco has contributed to the high rates of smoking we see today. Tobacco was issued to us mob as part of official government policy and as payment for labour in many rural industries. Here in Bundaberg is where my ancestors were employed to plant and harvest cane. My father's mob was forcibly removed from their South Sea Island homes and brought here to work with local mob. They were paid in rations, including tobacco. They helped build this country, but what did they get for it? Disease and addiction.
Family friend Matt Nagers worked in the cane fields with his father as a boy and knows firsthand just how hard the work could be.
I don't want to recognise because of some of the harsh treatments and stuff,
Right.
12-hour days, and in those 12-hour days you'd work 6 days a week, and then they'd on a Saturday would be about 10 hours. Stay on this outside, yep. Aboriginal people, because they were in communities like the missions and places like Cherbourg and Woorabinda around here, weren't allowed out of those missions unless they got a permit. And so they used to come and work in the sugar with the islanders, and they'd get a permit to come out and work. I reckon we could sign you up tomorrow, mate. Hey. Put you in a block tomorrow. Hard labour, mate. Clearing land was one thing. Cut down trees by axes, no chainsaws them days. Cross-cut saws and digging around stump holes.
Okay, hey. While white labourers were paid in cash, Aboriginal and Islander people were paid in rations, including sugar, flour, and the worst of all, tobacco.
The tobacco was put there to say, if you are good behaviour, this was the extra you can get. It became a form of control because it became an extra incentive to get more tobacco if you'd done extra duties. Because it was an incentive to have that extra, they would be on their best behaviour and pick up that extra with their rations. And so after that, it became routine, it became a habit because it's addiction, and it started getting passed down. It was part of the grocery bill. When people were starting to buy their groceries, they'd make sure they had that tobacco in there too. So way back then, they introduced it. Over the time, it's been passed down from generation to generation, and that's probably the biggest thing. For Marcus, that's a bit of a taste what the old people done, and they done it day in, day out, 6 days a week, 12-hour days, 10 hours on Saturday. How do you think that was?
Man, I was exhausted after like a couple of swings with this, and then the thing to get paid in tobacco for this.
Yeah.
No money or nothing.
Yeah.
Sugar is one of the largest agricultural export industries in Australia and has literally made billions of dollars since black labour started in the 1880s. Yet despite these immense profits, blackfellas got paid in rations up until the early 20th century.
It's incredible to see how much is farmed here and how much the Australian economy has benefited over decades from all the unpaid work of my ancestors.
Although my grandfather didn't work in the cane fields, his ancestors did, and through rationing, tobacco became a normal way of life, handed down generation to generation.
Granddad was an entertainer, and sometimes I wish that, Granddad would see me perform now.
Dad loved playing guitar. He was very fond of the ukulele too. And music was a very much part of his life. And so it's all flowing on from, I guess, Dad, so which has been a good thing. It's been a good gift. His whole life evolved around smoking, and I guess that's what killed him in the end. He died of lung cancer.
Dad, you've spent years working as a health worker. What's it like working in this area?
I guess when I became a health worker and the realisation that Dad actually died from cigarette smoking, that was kind of a challenge to me to work in the community for a lot of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people, South Sea Islander people. The smoking in those days was kind of like the norm, and I think it's sad today that you see the effects of smoking. It's devastating. It's leading to worse health. Chronic diseases become a lot more prevalent because they're fighting, lifestyle habits that comes with smoking, which is sitting around, drinking, other things like that are associated with smoking. So it's hard to break that cycle, but that's a health worker's challenge. And it's about telling stories. It's about men's groups, women's groups, healthy lifestyle days where you can challenge the community. We can be deadly and be proud of who we are without smoking. Communities came together to dance, to sing, and to enjoy, good celebration, festivities. And that's what we were trying to bring about. Designing cultural days to talk and to share, to sing about, to dance about in a good setting, and to relate to young people, older people, the message that smoking is really not a part of our culture, and it's what's killing us today.
What has been particularly effective in making us mob understand that smoking was not part of our culture is cultural healing days where Uncle Les and Uncle Artie engage with the mob and take them out bush to go fishing and have a big cook-up and talk about tobacco.
This is all part of our traditional country here, and when we used to come down, we catch here, we catch freshwater bream, we catch eel, bungaroos, turtles, all them things. When the rains and that come, it flushes all this river out, and this is a live source. That's what I said, it's a live source. It was a live source of our people, water, fire. You seen that fire we light up? When we cook, there's a life. It's like the blood that runs through our veins. But the Mole people, when they did the campfires and everything, that was healing to us. Because you smoke that, you smell that smoke and it goes inside your body, right? And it becomes healing to our body because it flushes everything out. It goes through the system.
It's a good way of getting young people to open up and express themselves. Not only them, but us as well. When you're out on a bit of open space like this, you'll get the message across more about the effects and damages of smoking to your body.
Just want you to grab a green branch, all you fellas, and just chuck it on there. so that smoke can start up. And that smoke, you see that smoke going up there now, that's got no nicotine in it, it's got no chemicals in it. You know, we did ceremonies with fire, smokes, chase bad spirits away, all that sort of stuff, you know. My father, he used to stand up against the wind, he used to call that smoke. I'd rather have my children around this, you know, around a riverbank with this sort of smoke, you know, a campfire, you know, without the nicotine, without the chemicals and everything that's in those poison, you know, in the cigarettes. Early 1900s, you know, our old people, grandfathers, grandmothers and them, they were given, for payment, they were given tobacco, you know, flour, you know, to survive on. You know what I mean? Now that's come through. That's not part of our genes, but it's come through in our bodies today, you know. And so when you see a young person smoking, think about it. Where'd that come from? How'd they learn that? You know, is it peer pressure? Or is it way back in the beginning, you know, that white man give them something, or non-Indigenous people give them something, and now they don't know how to fix it. Out in the country here, we try and bring them out and teach them what our old people taught us, you know, and showed us. This was part of us, and we can't take that away from us, no matter how hard we try. Even when we die, we go back to Mother Earth. It's like going back into the womb of a mother. If we come back to the one common cause, we're looking after trying to save our children, our culture, and our spirituality. And tobacco, to us, is wrong.
Out here, it's more the environment. It's away from the city, the way they live in there, and it's a different environment, different living, different altogether, yeah.
The women tell stories to their daughters, just like their mothers and their mother before them, sharing their knowledge and wisdom.
Just like my mother talks to us when we was younger. It's sort of passing down the lines of our generations. My daughter's well aware of what goes on in the community. You don't need to be the in thing in the community. I always tell my children, you need to be a leader, not a follower.
Harvey Bay is known for whales, and by using the country around here for inspiration, elders like Goombla take the young fellas out to talk about culture and our history.
Goombla is a local police liaison officer, and one of his jobs is to take the kids off the street and out here to experience something completely different. Here, he can talk to the kids about culture, values, and beliefs.
It's important to bring the young people out, especially out in the middle of the ocean and see the whales. There's one whale there. Oh. They jump in there. The cultural belief in this area is the whales are pretty sacred animals.
It's amazing being so close to a mother whale and her calf. And this experience helps the young fellas to engage and be open to Goombla's positive message.
You think it's in an Aboriginal culture that we smoke?
No.
You know how addicted it is, eh? You've seen your parents in that gas fit, eh? It's very important, I believe, to take kids away from the environment and sit them down like a traditional sense, telling them yarn at the same time in a safe environment. They take them all in. So what happens when you kill a culture? What happens then?
You got nothing. You're sitting down on the streets.
Yeah, you got nothing left, have you?
Yeah.
Echoes from an ancient culture draws the whales closer, and the distant sound encourages one whale to have a closer look. Inspired by what they have seen and experienced, the young fellas perform their own song for the whales.
We get told by general society that we need to be in this one world and that's the only way you should look. But in fact, we also need to look to the strengths of our heritage and our culture. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of revivalistic kinds of programs, particularly around substance use. So that's quite a large area even for alcohol and other substances. We're seeing this, strength of identity, strength of communalism, strength of community as the solution to counterbalance, this individual situation that we find ourselves in, I guess, in the Western construct. So those two things are quite opposed, but we sort of live in between that world, and we have to. Like that's how it is.
My Auntie Linda's father also died of a smoking-related illness, and now she works for an innovative health program that combats smoking within her community.
Hey Auntie, we know that Grandad was a heavy smoker. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
He did smoke, and it sort of affected us in different ways because it was not really part of our lifestyle. And when we found out Dad was smoking, it was sort of like, why? Why? But then when you look at history, great-grandfather, he used to smoke a pipe, and that was part of his upbringing. He smoked a pipe. People were paid by tobacco, and so it was sort of, part of their income, part of their living is they got flour, sugar and tobacco, and it was like a monetary thing to them, and that was how they survived.
Do you think he knew of the ramifications of smoking?
Yeah, I think he did, because he used to watch, there was a TV ad on about Yul Brennan, and he used to say something along the lines of, don't smoke.
I really wanted to make a commercial when I discovered that I was that sick and my time was so limited. I wanted to make that commercial that says simply, now that I'm gone, I tell you, don't smoke.
Linda helped develop an effective TV commercial, hoping to change some of the attitudes within the local community.
Every day I run. I run to beat the statistics that tell me what I will do and what I won't become. I run to earn my place as an elder and pass on our culture's traditions. To succeed, I have to be strong.
I believe it was very successful. It got the word out there. Everybody in the community that knows about our organisation loved the ad. It was a powerful message. They want to live a long time. They don't want to die early, so that was part of how they ran the ad. And we just wanted to let the community know that smoking isn't part of our culture, and we just needed to let them know that it's not what we do.
Our mob are now taking control of the message. Here on the south coast of New South Wales, health workers at Binjibori have made a TV commercial which has had a profound effect on the community.
My name's Leah. I have 2 children and I have one on the way. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought it was time to quit. I haven't had a cigarette for 7 months now. I feel a lot more healthier, energetic, breathe easier. So yeah, feel a lot lighter, feels good.
It was effective in the sense that everybody related to what Leah was going through. She was pregnant, and it gave a really good story of Leah and how she quit smoking.
I tried to quit smoking before, but I didn't have the support that I have now. Neither did I have the patches or the sprays or, I tried everything.
I think having Leah in the commercial was very successful because she's local to this community and as well as the La Perouse community. So she's known on the East Coast, which is a really good thing. And I think having a familiar face and an Aboriginal person, it sort of hits home with a lot of the Aboriginal people. It sort of says, well, if you can do it, then I can do it. And it sort of promotes that, everybody's battling with, trying to stop smoking, and Leah's sort of set the benchmark for everybody to quit smoking.
The journey wasn't easy, but hopefully I've quit smoking for life. I'm still smoke-free. I don't miss it at all. This is the little boy that I was pregnant with in the commercial, and I'm just so glad that I gave up. It's well worth it. For anyone, if you can give up smoking, just do it. It's the best thing ever.
Once upon a time, television commercials sold us tobacco. They convinced millions of people that it was cool, sophisticated, and a popular thing to do. Today, these same techniques are being used to show us the truth of tobacco, that it kills, destroying our family and community. Using the latest research and production methods, specifically designed media campaigns are making a difference.
Smoking is killing too many people, but it can be stopped.
It's a tool of engagement. It's, quite simply the communication method of today.
National Indigenous television broadcasts a diverse range of material, and it's Tanya Denning's job to make sure that it is relevant and appropriate to the whole community.
Today, we're a lot more mindful of how we, use drugs or alcohol, cigarettes, how they are placed in drama, how we're advertising, but also the audience is telling us. They know the harmful effects that it can have, so we have to think smarter. And the best way that we're doing it now is engaging with the community. Community know what they want and how they want to be informed. So using local filmmakers or local information to reflect on screen, we're finding we're having a lot of positive audience feedback.
Well, I've only got $22. 23.20. How much does smoking really cost you?
Years ago, it was very much about a status. Now it's a lot more of an informed impact. The impact that this has on not just your life, but your community's life.
Lillian, I'm home. Children learn from those they admire.
There's common human themes, human elements that really help for our audience to connect with.
Indigenous youth are amongst the fastest adapters of mobile technology in the country, and by using social media, positive health messages are able to spread quickly throughout the community.
Social media allows Indigenous communities to have our own voice and our own platform to report and also create our own discussions and debates online. For far too long, mainstream media have focused on negative storytelling on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and social media has paved the way for our voices to be heard in a positive note. Social media is a particularly vital tool for youth to get involved with conversations about these smoking campaigns online. That's why it's particularly important to get these campaigns across using those platforms.
If you want it, then you better put a patch on it. If you like it, then you're gonna get sick from it. Don't be mad and get addicted to it.
By using comedy, it's a powerful medium, and so to use that on television and media, you can get the messages across. Bam, bam, bam.
Sean Chilbra is one of Australia's best-known Indigenous comedians, and he understands just how powerful comedy can be in getting the message across.
People go, hey, look at this, man, it's funny. But at the same time, you're hitting them with a very serious message to do it smoking.
If you want it, then you better put a patch on it.
If it's a comedian doing it, you're gonna go, hey, come and have a look at this fella here, boom, boom, boom. It's on YouTube and it's on, you're getting more people to watch it. It becomes more entertaining. Oh man, I gotta give up these cigarettes.
50%, nearly half of our people, just under half of our people smoke. So what's the difference? Well, all the research that we've undertaken has told us a couple of clear things. One is that mainstream messaging hasn't reached our people. And so what we've tried to do is to work with our people to come up with the solutions. We're solutions that we can relate to, that we will work with each other to develop.
Tom Calma is one of our most important leaders, Chancellor of Canberra University, on the Board of Directors at Reconciliation Australia, and as the National Coordinator for tackling Indigenous smoking, he is the foremost authority on strategies to challenge smoking habits within our community.
Messaging for our mob, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, is most effective when we are generating that message, that it is culturally appropriate and within our frame of reference, things that we understand. We know that we are a very oral people. We have an oral tradition. We also know that we value relationships with each other. And so a lot of our marketing, a lot of our programs are around family and they're around relationships.
Do it for me. That one's done, so we'll go down.
It's this community involvement from the women at Binji Bori which provides a strength and connection for the mothers in this area.
You know, smoking, it is very deep in the community. It's very normal. But nowadays the kids are being educated at school, at work. It's not normal to smoke. And socially, if they're out of their social norm, which is out in the outer broader community, it's frowned upon.
Right here in Redfern in inner city Sydney, there's a mentoring program that's been going for 8 years, and it's making a real difference to the health of this community.
Could feel the earth was turning to my whole body felt.
Health is the number one thing. Fitness is the number one thing. You know, Redfern's been building for a long time. Redfern Rabbitohs, they've won the premiership. And it takes, you know, healthy lifestyle, healthy people to win premierships.
Keep your back straight. Take the weight off your lower
What I'm
back.
seeing around this area with the program and with the older mentors that are now 2021. They are becoming mentors themselves, they're becoming leaders, and the young kids are looking up to them.
A few of my family members smoked, and I've seen what it does to them. It tears families apart to keep myself healthy and so I can be around longer for my family and for my son.
Things are changing here from generation to generation. We had a wave of kids in 2009. We supported them, we put them on the program. They've become successful, healthy young men, many elite footballers.
I believe our mob are getting stronger and healthier every day. I mean, look at this. It's just fantastic. And you know, tobacco, that's in our past.
The hard work we do here replicates the discipline and the routine we carry out throughout the days, the weeks, the months and years. If this is the hardest thing you do today, well, you're going to have a good day.
The Corowa Knockout is one of the biggest gatherings of blackfellas in the country. Mob come from all over to catch up with family and friends. It's a celebration of community, footy and being healthy.
It's been going for about 44 years now, and it's a big tournament, and it's probably one of the biggest Aboriginal gatherings in New South Wales or Australia or even the world. We've won it the last 2 years, and I've been playing knockout football since I was 16, so a lot of my skills and the way I've played and where I've got today with my football comes from the Corowa Knockout. Back in the old days, I used to remember the Winfield Cup cigarette campaign. A lot of league teams used to promote it, but now it's something that it's shunned upon. You know, I hate the smell of it, and you know, I don't smoke, and I don't want my kids to smoke either. Hardly anyone smokes now, and it's a good thing. I see a big change in being from 18 to being in my 30s now. That I think the campaigns that everyone's running now are letting people be aware that smoking's no good.
Looking around, you can sense the legacy of tobacco rationing being overshadowed by a new attitude to what is normal and accepted within our community. Attitudes are changing, programs are starting to make a difference, and events like this reflect the growing momentum away from time past.
You can't really smoke and be an athlete, so it's good to show the kids that you can't smoke and assume that you're going to play footy and go somewhere within your career. It's not a normal thing. It's something that shouldn't be normal.
Get the message out there that smoking's not good, you know, not good for your health, not good for anything.
You can taste everything better, and I love my food. But also, more importantly, it's about treating your body right. And you know, you got to think down the line too. If you're going to have kids and the rest of your family, you want to stay healthy for yourself. You want to stay healthy for your mob. And being smoke-free and staying clear of tobacco, you know, it's got to be a good choice.
So having the Koori Knockout as a smoke-free event is absolutely remarkable, and I think we should all be really, really proud about it.
4 days and 40,000 people, and no one is smoking here.
We need to keep a concerted effort in the area. As we've shown in the general population, we still need to have the mass media campaigns to show people what it does to your family, what it does to your body, what it does to your community. The tobacco companies have been proven time and time again to be very good at selling their product, so we have to be equally as good in selling our message about how we need to decrease these rates even further.
Since tobacco arrived here over 200 years ago, the damage to our culture has been profound. The insidious proliferation of tobacco within our community over this period has led to death and disease. From family and friends to our most precious resource, our leaders and elders, it has been an epidemic that has devastated our culture and communities. I will always miss my grandfathers and wish tobacco had never been handed down through the generations. I understand that it was never part of our culture, and through colonisation it has been normalised within our community. But it stops with me. I want to grow old and see my grandchildren achieve great things. I don't want to smoke, and I don't want to see my mob smoke. Through the great work within our communities, there is a growing awareness that we can do without tobacco. Attitudes and old habits are changing. There is a new generation wanting to live longer and healthier, and it is up to all of us to build on this growing momentum. We can clearly see the effects of the past. Now it's time to achieve a stronger future for us and our children, so that the world's oldest living culture can continue as custodians of this great land.